Key on this issue, Trump says no to the G7 appeasers. A very important point and a brilliant point by President Trump, bringing in Robert Greenway, former National Security Council Senior Director and Director of the Heritage Foundation Allison Center. Robert, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. I had a couple things for you. I heard you last night on Mark Levin. You were terrific. But the point, this leak, White House sources say Trump will not sign any kind of agreement that calls for a de-escalation between Israel and Iran. And it's like, here's, the G7, less Trump, the G6, here they go again. What in God's name would a de-escalation do, except help Iran, if anything?
Oh, you're exactly right, and thanks for having me on. Having watched your show, I'd put it in these terms. This is a distressed property on its way down fast. I don't think President Trump is eager to buy. I think there's plenty of time for that. And so it's encouraging to see a president support Israel fully defend itself and American interest, unlike his predecessor, which was eager to constrain Prime Minister Netanyahu and Israel from taking any offensive action of any kind.
Robert, the other thing I wanted to raise, a couple other things. First of all, on this, the air war between Iran and Israel, some of the Iranian missiles are getting through. We know that. It's tragic. People are dying. But, the Iranian casualties and deaths are much later. I saw some numbers that looked like at least 10-1. How many more do you think of these Iranian missiles are there left? I mean, some people say their stock is already depleted by a third. Who knows who you can believe over there? What do you think about that?
Look, I think the entirety of Iran's ballistic missile inventory of February of last year was assessed to be about 3,000. Only about a third of that, perhaps 25%, was long enough, had the range capable of reaching Israel. And so since then, they've fired salvos in both April and in October of last year, and for the last 3 days. In my judgment, there's certainly less than 1,000. I would say the number is closer to 500. Either way, this is a terminal condition from which Iran cannot recover. It does not control its own airspace, and its missile production capacity has been eliminated. Its launch capacity eliminated by 1/3. And so regardless of the inventory, this condition is not sustainable.
And Robert, I'm reading that Israel is hitting Iranian command and control centers. So they've crippled the general staff. We know they've crippled the science staff. I'll get to that in a minute. But if they're hitting these command and control centers, I mean, that would render a lot of the Iranian what's left of their stock, completely useless.
That's absolutely right. Air defense has been eliminated already. Their air force, such as it is, has been destroyed. The command and control, mostly their general officers, 35 of which have been eliminated so far by Israel in these attacks, and the number grows every day, indicates that Iran no longer has the capacity or capability to respond, which is why Iran now has no control over its airspace. And from a military perspective, this condition is 100% fatal.
Robert Greenway, in your judgment, is the Wall Street Journal editorial board right? Does Israel need help? Does Israel need help from the U.S. Regarding, heavy bombers to go after Fordow, essentially bunker busters or whatever we're going to call them? Is that the right idea?
I think ultimately it is. Israel has tremendous capacity and capability, but it does not have the conventional munitions launched from the air in order to attack a hardened, deeply buried bunker. And there are two. There's one at Fordow. There's one also at Natanz that has not yet been used, but could be, both of which are over 300 feet underground. It would require munitions that are only within the capacity and capability of the United States, can only be delivered by the United States. Israel could bury it, but they can't damage or destroy the contents of it under current conditions.
What does your info tell you about damaging the nuclear capability so far? I mean, I'm reading they hit Natanz, but it doesn't seem like it's been rendered inoperative. Do we know much, Robert Greenway, at this stage?
Well, we know what the Israelis share on strike capacity. We know what the IAEA has reported, and it looks as though above ground enrichment capacity in centrifuges at Natanz pilot fuel enrichment program has been virtually destroyed. It may well be that those underground have been damaged because of the loss of power. It's hard to say with certainty. We know the scientists have been killed, and we know that weaponization facilities have likely been struck as well. And their archive, the duplicate that was stolen by Israel some years ago, has also been destroyed. but there's a lot of work to be done to ensure that they no longer have the capacity to enrich or develop a nuclear weapon, but they now have control of the airspace, and time is on Israel's side for the first time in quite a while.
Yeah, that's a great point. Time is on Israel's side. And you know what else, Robert Greenway? The American president is on Israel's side. How good is that? Anyway, Robert Greenway, Heritage Foundation, thank you, sir. We hope you'll come back and help us out.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care.